Good afternoon, everybody. It is an absolute pleasure to be up here again representing Dreadnought Resources, and I look forward to sharing the story with you of what we have coming up over the next 12 months. And my thingamajigger's not working. Hey, there we go. All right. Disclaimers with lots of ASX announcements, as is the new requirement. Feel free to read that. All right, so Dreadnought as a company, a bit of a background for those of us that haven't heard of Dreadnought yet. We've been around for about 2 years. We are a junior exploration company, market cap of around about $40 million, $2.5 million in the bank, with a track record of raising small amounts of money to deliver our programs. Because as the board and management of this company, we've invested $1.2 million of our own money. We own about 19% of the company, and we're very sensitive towards things like dilution. We are a junior explorer. We're here to make a discovery, and we have a lot of skin in the game. And I think I have the best board and the best team in order to deliver that. We have Paul Chapman as our fearless leader, currently the chairman of Dreadnought, Black Cat Syndicate, and Encounter, recently floated Sunshine Gold over on the East Coast. Has a fantastic reputation and his track record of Silver Lake and Avanco in the past. We have the calm and cool Ian Gordon, who was the managing director of Ramelius for several years. Took all that wonderful money he made from Wattle Dam and took over Mount Magnet and set Ramelius on the path that it has today. And our technical guru, Paul Payne, who makes sure that I don't blow too much smoke up the board and make sure we keep honest about technically, geologically what we're going for and how we're going about doing it. We got Jess Lyons and the team at Everest Corporate, making sure we dot our I's and cross our T's, and a young exploration team led by Matt Crow, with Nick Chapman and Luke Blaze, very young, very hungry. They know what an exploration discovery looks like, they know what it takes, and they're willing to get out there and do what needs to get done to make that discovery. I couldn't ask for a better board, a better team, and to top it off, we got some really good projects to go with it. Our projects span from up north in the Kimberley all the way down to the goldfields. Anyone who's done work or seen companies do work in the Kimberley in the past knows you have a fairly limited season. So we like to have our cricket season and footy season projects. So when it's dry, we're up in the Kimberley, and when it's wet, we're down in Alara in the greenstone belts. And we've just added a new project, Mangaroon, which rounds off some of our climate and destination projects quite nicely. So our strategy and performance, we've been around for about 2 years. Like I said, we are a junior explorer. We are here to make a discovery. And so everything that we do is focused along that path. We put money in the ground. To date, for the last 2 years, 84% of funds raised has gone into the ground. 2 years ago, we've had about 500% shareholder return. We have put out a steady stream of news flow, very honest and transparent news flow to let shareholders know what we are doing with their money, which is also our money. I want to make sure people can hold us accountable for what we're doing and are along for the ride for hopefully will be an exciting year ahead for us. Effective and efficient exploration, discovery, that's what we're here for. The Julimars, the DeGrousses, all the wonderful things that we see in the value that it creates. The value creates not only for the shareholders, but for the state, for the country, and for the people in the regions. So that's what we're here to do. We're here to make a discovery, and we're here to do that effective and efficient exploration, making sure we have a constant supply pipeline of good targets, and that we're constantly testing those targets as we're generating new ones. It's exploration, it's a high-risk game and high reward, so we have to make sure we give us as many chances as we can with the funds that we have available. And along the way, license to operate becomes more and more important. Strong win-win stakeholder relationships with our native title parties, our pastoralists, we work very closely. Our contractors, are some of our biggest risks. People talk about technical risk and safety risk. We also have operational risk. Our drilling companies, Hagstrom, Ausdrill, our logistics group like Exxon Logistics, Southern Geosciences, we have a strong collection of stakeholders around us with strong relationships with them that allows us to get the jobs done on time and on budget, which is very important when you're a junior, reliant on news flow and getting successful. But the main part of this presentation I want to talk about is what we have up for the next 12 years. 12 years. Hopefully we're all fat, dumb, and happy by then. Next 12 months for Dreadnought is going to be extremely exciting. Starting off this year, what we're looking at right here is a bit of a bubble chart, some of our targets that we have. Like I said, we're an exploration company, so we're here to generate targets and test those targets, identify, hopefully, a resource, get some value in that, and either develop that or essentially crystallize value. And at the bottom, what we have is a timeline throughout the year. One of the things that we do to balance that target generation and target testing is also making sure that we have a steady flow of constant news flow that matters to the market. So this year, wrong button. All right. Starting off, last year, the company was essentially floated a lot on this Kimberley project. It's up in the north. We've done a lot of target generation work. We have some very, very attractive targets up there. We have about 3 more we're going to be putting out from Orion in April when we do some fixed loop EM over some VTEM anomalies. And once it dries up there in May, June, we're going to be getting up there and unleashing that backlog of extremely exciting targets of nickel, copper, platinum, palladium, also some copper, gold, and some VMS targets. We'll go through those targets in a minute and how attractive they are. In the meantime, we're heading back out to Alara, where we have some unfinished business at Metzke's. We have finished a program last year, and we have to finish that off. We also have some exciting targets, Longmore's Find, Black Oak, Bald Hill. This morning, we put out an announcement on Lawrence's corridor, which is going to generate a lot of new targets for us. And while we get the rigs out there at the end of this month, we'll be drilling what we haven't even defined yet at Lawrence's, because we're pretty sure we're going to have some really nice targets there as well. Our new projects at Mangaroon, if all goes well, we have some very attractive high-grade gold, a nice historical story of why this place has been unloved for so long, which are projects that I sort of like and very particular to. And what's emerging as hopefully a nice new nickel copper PGE intrusion, which we'll talk about a bit towards the end. If all goes well, we'll have that ready for drilling at the end of this year as well. So a lot of news flow, a lot of targets to test, and a lot of these targets are really attractive, which is what we'll go through over the next few slides. Starting off with the Yilgarn, everyone's seen the map like this. Every greenstone belt should have a major gold deposit. A few years ago, Gruyere wasn't out there. The Alara project sits in what I call the Bermuda Triangle of the Yilgarn. And if you go back through the records, historical train lines, access, you look at fresh groundwater sources, you look at any of these sorts of data sets over the history of Western Australia, and really that Bermuda Triangle was outside the stretch of where most people could get to. It's a very isolated area. There's not much fresh water, and it was always a long hike from the closest train line. So it's been unexplored for a very long time, so there's no reason why there shouldn't be a nice big gold deposit sitting there, and we'll be doing our work to see if we can't find one. The Alara Gold project we acquired from Newmont in 2016. Obviously, they thought the exact same thing. They were generous enough to do some first pass sampling, which identifies these big corridors, the fluid flow pathways that you're looking for within the greenstone belts. Some work published recently by John Hronsky and company that talks about once you find these fluid pathways, you tend to find multiple deposits. And so a lot of the exploration work that Newmont does and what we've jumped on the top of is identifying these early fluid flow pathways as quickly as possible and focusing our exploration efforts there. 2 of those that lit up very early on was Metzke's corridor and most recently the Lawrence's corridor, where we've just done first pass soils on. Metzke's Find, high-grade gold, narrow vein, some very attractive intercepts there. We're currently trying to figure out where it's going to be plunging. And it's important to note that as far as Alara goes, completely not off limits to exploration, that's the Kimberley. What we had at Alara was an area that was locked up by the iron ore explorers from 2000 all the way through. So you had DRE.ASX, you had the fallout and gold exploration. This Bermuda Triangle of the Yilgarn fell into iron ore explorers' hands, and which is benefiting us a bit at the moment, hopefully. And what we have seen is there's not been much gold exploration. So Newmont was the first group to get out there. We're coming back in on the backside of that, jumping on their shoulders, doing the target gen and target testing, and hitting a few goals early on. It's important to note that regionally across this greenstone belt, only about 25% of those anomalies in areas of interest have had any first pass soils. We have just completed, with the help of XM Logistics, regional soils over that entire area, and we're looking forward to seeing what comes out from a lot of those prospective gold and VMS trends. Metzke's corridor itself, Metzke's Finds, has given us some high-grade intercepts. It also gives us a nice early place to get our eyes in for what the gold systems look like within the Alara greenstone belt. So we take that information, look at the soil geochemistry, the structure, the magnetics. We're going to be trialing some SAM surveys out there, and we can learn all that information, feed that back into our targeting, and continually develop more and more robust targets to go out there and chase with our drill rigs. We have some unfinished business there, figuring out which way that mineralization is plunging. We got the rig showing up on the 25th of February, and we'll be finding that out. While it's there, we'll also be at Longmore's Find, where we recently hit 100 grams per ton, twinned that hole, wasn't there. The veins were cutting across the core, and we're thinking that potentially that the veins are running in the same direction as we had drilled previously. So we're swinging that around and see what's there. We'll find out very shortly. Black Oak, putting more holes into Black Oak, some thick oxide mineralization in the first program. This program we're following back up, testing that anomaly along strike and drilling a lot deeper. So wider space fence line, deeper holes. Try and find that mineralized structure. In Bald Hill, will be the first holes we put into that anomaly at the north end of the Metzges corridor, where we have outcropping quartz, silver, and gold veins, chasing that undercover. Lawrence's corridor, I'd like to take a moment. This is what we announced today. These two images, the Metzges corridor and the Lawrence's corridor, are at the exact same scale. So the tenor and the coherentness of the soil anomalies at Lawrence's is certainly better than anything that we've seen at Lawrence's at the Alara Greenstone Belt to date. There's a old digging at Lawrence's Find. We had some rock chips down there at 54 grams per ton. There's 2 drill holes scissoring that from the 1970s, and nothing else along the entire 6 kilometers of that strike. There's a big intrusion sitting right in there, and a couple of other intrusions sitting along that big structure. We've completed, in the process of completing the infill soils. We expect to have the assays back from Lab West to the ultrafine soils very shortly, and expect to see a lot of news flow out of Lawrence's as we rush this to get it drill ready when the rig's on site in March. Iron ore, worth noting in the background, we're surrounded by the very well cashed up MinRes, recently floated Juno. There's iron ore developers and miners in this area. Iron ore is worth a lot of money at the moment, and will be worth a lot of money to them, so watch this space. Moving on, our Proterozoic copper gold projects. So this now encompasses the West Kimberley and our new Mangaroon project. Proterozoic mobile belts are very attractive jurisdictions, looking for different styles of mineralization. Also, you have things like Nova Bollinger, Winu, Telford, Nebo Babel, all sorts of these beautiful sort of deposits, elephant country, very exciting things to go after. Albany Fraser and places like this is undercover. It's very expensive. It's a graveyard for a lot of juniors. Hopefully IGO has continued success out there over the coming years. Places like the West Kimberley and the Gascoigne, it's sticking out of the ground. And we have some quite exciting early stages of mineralization to showcase there. Starting off of Taraji and the Kimberley, the heart of our project in the West Kimberley is the Taraji-Yampi area. All of this ground is within the Defense Reserve. The Defense Reserve was put in 1978 and was off limits to all exploration within the state until 2013, when Tim Clifton, Drew Money, and a group of others pegged that ground, which Paul Chapman and subsequently Dreadnought gained control over through a joint venture agreement. We subsequently added the rest of Yampi to that land holding. The last people to do exploration, the last person to do exploration at Taraji was the late Roy Woodall himself, legend and inspiration to all of us who dream of exploration and discovery. Was out there in 1958, straight back when he was back from the United States. So we're the first people to be boots on ground since Roy Woodall in 1958. There's mineralization sticking out of the ground. It's a very, very exciting prospect. I explored once in Myanmar and in a few other different places. You think you have to go to those countries to get these sorts of opportunities. And here it is in Western Australia, untouched since the 70s, since half of all the mineralized deposits in Australia have been found, and we're the first movers, the first ones to be on the ground. And that's a very exciting prospect for us. So I'll talk about our targets as we go up through here. We have Texas and Orion, which we'll start off with. This is what IGO is chasing, the old Buxton ground, and also Chalice next door. You have Texas, which is sitting within ruins dolerite. We have a coincident EM and mag anomaly ready to go. That drill rig will show up with Hagstrom, hopefully, in May, end of May, start of June, and we'll finally put an answer to what that is. In April, we'll be going up and looking at Orion. Orion's another thick ruins dolerite. Some VTIM anomalies there, some 3 areas that we'll be doing fixed loop EM over in April, so expect to see some new drill targets coming out from that in the coming months as well. After the rig's finished there, they'll move down to Fuso and Paul's Find. So all around this area, you have these outcropping veins of copper, gold, cobalt, silver, and antimony. You look at these rocks, you look at their signature. We've shown them to a lot of experts, and they've all come back and said similar things. This looks like Mount Isa. This looks like Tennant Creek. So the question is, Those veins are sticking out of the ground because they're veins. Where's the breccia pipe? Where's Ernest Henry? So when we had the ground in 2019, we flew a detailed mag survey. We then went in, looked at those intense magnetic anomalies, did ground gravity, and lit up two very attractive targets early on, one of which is Fuso, 1.5 kilometers wide, with a coincident gravity anomaly right in the middle of a DMAG central point. And then you have Paul's find, which is an intense remnant magnetics low, with a coincident gravity high sitting right in the middle of it. These things are classic copper-gold targets in this sort of setting. They're undercover. Looking forward to drilling them. Doesn't mean they're mineralized, but I'm really looking forward to putting a hole into those. Chiantirafina, 7 EM targets. We have a confirmed VMS system that we drilled in 2019. While we were out there, we defined 7 more EM plates. We'll go out there and put a hole into each of those and see what comes up. And last but not least, our new project, Mangaroon. Come by the booth and talk about it some more. We have some nice rocks there to show off. We do have some confirmed magmatic sulfides in that 3-phase. We have chalcopyrite, pentlandite, and pyrrhotite. This is a previously really unmapped, unrecognized intrusion that runs about 50 kilometers long, 800 million years old. It's the same similar age and scale of intrusion to Jinchuan. The tenor of the sulfides are similar to Eagle. If there's a massive accumulation of those sulfides, we will find it and we will drill it come September. In addition to that, there's some really high-grade gold floating around there as well, and we look forward to drilling those too. So takeaway message, we have over 20 targets ready to go to be tested this year. We have them spanned out. We're going to produce lots of news flow, generating and testing those targets. We're first movers in the Kimberley and Mangaroon. Alara, we have an entire greenstone belt gifted to us by Newmont. We have an experienced management team and a modest market cap leverage for success. So we look forward to keeping you all well informed of what's going on and handing over to our IGO and Oz Minerals, billion-dollar companies, which hopefully will join you in a couple years' time. Thank you all.